Not everything deserves your reaction. When you stay calm in the middle of chaos, you take back your power and protect your peace. Reacting out of anger or pain only makes things worse. But when you pause and breathe, you stay in control of your mind and actions. Emotions are real, but they should not rule your life. Learning how to respond instead of react changes how you feel, how you think, and how you live. Today, we will talk about the power of not reacting and how controlling your emotions can give you the peace and clarity you've always wanted. Emotional control is not about pretending you don't feel anything. It's about knowing how to feel without letting your feelings take over. When you learn how to stay calm instead of snapping or breaking down, you become stronger from the inside. This is how you protect your energy, improve your relationships, and handle life's pressure with strength.
If you're ready to take back control of your emotions and stop letting everything get to you, then let's dive in. Number 1, pause before responding to anything that triggers you emotionally. There's a reason most people feel stuck in life. Not because they're lazy, not because they're not smart enough, but because they keep reacting to everything. Someone says something they don't like. They snap. Something doesn't go their way. They blow up. A message, a tone, a look. It doesn't take much to light the fire. That fire burns bridges. It damages trust. It costs you respect. And over time, it steals your peace. It turns you into someone you don't even recognize. And here's the hard truth. If you can't learn to pause, just pause before you react, you'll always be a prisoner to your emotions. There's something powerful about the pause. In that split second, before your mouth opens or your hands type out that message, you hold the key to who you're becoming. Do you let anger decide for you? Do you hand over control to fear, jealousy, or pride? Or do you step back, even for a moment, and reclaim your power? Most people don't realize how much damage is done in seconds. One quick reaction can ruin a relationship you spent years building. One emotional outburst can crush your credibility. One defensive comment can send the wrong message. It doesn't take much. But the person who pauses, that person is different. That person isn't weak, they're wise. When you pause, what you're really doing is choosing to see the full picture. You're giving yourself a chance to let the moment settle. You're refusing to be manipulated by adrenaline or ego. You're stepping outside the storm instead of getting swept up in it. That pause is where you buy yourself clarity. And you can't respond with wisdom if you never gave yourself space to think. Too often we want to jump in. We want to fix it, defend ourselves, or prove a point. But reacting too fast almost always means reacting without thinking. And that's where the damage comes in. You ever been in a conversation where someone says something that hits a nerve? Maybe it's criticism, maybe it's disrespect, maybe it's just the wrong tone. Your heart rate jumps. You feel heat in your face. Your mind starts racing. You want to cut them off, raise your voice, say something sharp. That's the moment I'm talking about. That's where most people lose the battle. But that's also the moment where the pause becomes your greatest tool. If you can recognize it and stay quiet just for a few seconds, you stop being controlled. You become the one in control. Now let's be clear, the pause isn't about avoiding problems. It's not about pretending everything's okay when it's not. It's about responding in a way that reflects who you are, not how they made you feel. When you pause, you give yourself a moment to decide, what kind of person do I want to be in this situation? Do you want to be calm? Do you want to be collected? Do you want to keep your dignity? You can't do that when your emotions are in the driver's seat. But when you pause, you take the wheel back. You don't give people that kind of power over you. Sometimes the pause might only be 2 or 3 seconds, but those seconds matter. They can be the difference between an argument and a conversation, between escalation and resolution, between regret and respect. And the more you practice that pause, the stronger you become. It's like a muscle. You don't get it right every time. Sometimes you'll still react. You'll still get it wrong. But if you're aware of it, if you make it your goal, over time, you become a different kind of person. A more grounded, steady, clear-minded version of yourself. There's a kind of emotional confidence that comes with pausing. It's not loud, it's not showy, but people feel it. They sense it in your presence. You're not easily rattled. You don't get dragged into drama. You don't take the bait. And that alone makes you stand out. It makes you trustworthy. It makes people want to follow your lead. Because people don't follow the loudest voice in the room, they follow the calmest one. And calm doesn't come from being passive. It comes from strength, from being intentional, from choosing not to let emotions do the talking for you. Now ask yourself, how many times have you said something you wish you could take back? How many times have you sent a message, made a comment, or reacted on impulse, and then hours later felt that sinking feeling in your chest? You knew better, but in the moment, your emotions took over. It's not because you're a bad person. It's because you didn't pause. That's all. You didn't give yourself a fighting chance. But the good news is you can train that. You can build that pause into your everyday life. Start small. Start by noticing the feeling when it rises. That urge to jump in, to fire back, to defend. When you feel it, stop. Breathe. Say nothing. Let the emotion pass through. You don't need to solve it in the moment. You don't need to win every exchange. You don't need to prove anything. What you need is clarity, and clarity only comes in stillness. Reacting makes things louder, messier, harder to clean up. Pausing makes room for clarity, strategy, and better outcomes. That's what successful people do. That's what leaders do. That's what emotionally strong people do. They don't react just because they feel something. They give their emotions room to breathe, and then they respond with intention. That's what real power looks like. And remember this, you're going to be tested. Someone will push your buttons. Life will throw curveballs. You will be misunderstood, judged, maybe even disrespected. But your job isn't to match the energy of every person or situation. Your job is to protect your energy. That starts with the pause. That moment when you choose to hold back, even when you want to react. That's where your strength lives. That's where your growth begins. When you learn to pause, you gain something more valuable than control. You gain peace. And once you taste that peace, once you realize how powerful it feels to not be pulled by every emotion that passes through you, you won't want to live any other way. You'll stop reacting to nonsense. You'll stop trying to prove yourself to people who aren't listening. You'll stop letting every moment of tension dictate your behavior. You'll carry yourself differently, and people will notice. The pause isn't weakness. It's self-mastery. And the person who can pause before they react, that person has already won the battle. Number 2, breathe deeply to calm your mind in tough moments. You ever been in a moment where everything feels like it's closing in on you? Like your chest tightens, your thoughts scatter, and the pressure builds up so fast you can't think straight? That's real. That's what life does sometimes. A tough conversation, a deadline, a betrayal, a fight with someone you care about. It all lands at once. And most people? They panic. They shut down, or they explode. But the ones who understand how to calm their mind, they're the ones who make it through with their head held high. And it starts with something so simple, breathing. Not the kind of breath you take when you're just existing. I'm talking about deep, intentional breathing. The kind that pulls you out of the chaos for just a few seconds and gives your mind a chance to slow down. People don't realize it, but your breath is your anchor. When your world feels out of control, your breath brings you back to yourself. It's the first thing that gets affected when you're stressed. It gets short, fast, shallow. That's your body sounding the alarm. But the moment you shift your breathing, slow it down, take it deep, you're telling your brain, I'm not in danger, I've got this. And that signal changes everything. Your heartbeat slows, your muscles relax, your thoughts start lining up instead of racing in all directions. That's not magic, that's biology. But the discipline, that's on you. Now you don't need a quiet room or a meditation app. You don't need music playing in the background. All you need is a moment, just one, to pull yourself back. You might be standing in traffic. You might be in a tense meeting. You might be sitting alone in your car trying not to lose it. Wherever you are, you can take that breath. In through the nose, slow and full. Hold it for just a second. And then out like you're letting go of all the pressure. Do that a few times, and something inside you starts to shift. You create space. You create calm. And you give yourself the mental clarity to deal with what's in front of you. Most people underestimate the power of what's going on inside their body. They think emotions are just in the mind, but the body keeps the score. Anxiety doesn't just live in your head, it lives in your shoulders, your jaw, your stomach. When you breathe deeply, you tell your whole body it's safe to let go. That's powerful. That gives you your focus back. You stop reacting. You start thinking. And from there, you can make better choices. Choices that actually help you move forward instead of making things worse. Let's face it, life doesn't slow down for anybody. The responsibilities keep piling up. The pressure doesn't ask if you're ready. It just hits. And if you don't learn how to regulate yourself in those tough moments, you'll always feel like you're drowning. But when you take control of your breath, you're taking control of your nervous system. You're reminding yourself that no matter what's going on outside, you can still choose peace on the inside. That's real strength. That's something nobody can take from you. It's easy to think breathing deeply is too simple to matter. But simple doesn't mean easy, especially not when you're angry or overwhelmed or afraid. The real challenge is catching yourself in that storm and saying, wait, I need a breath. It takes self-awareness. It takes practice. But over time, it becomes automatic. You get triggered. You breathe. You feel stress rising. You breathe. You hear something that normally sets you off. You breathe. And little by little, you stop being controlled by the moment. You start controlling your response to it. You can't always remove the stress, but you can change how it affects you. That's where breathing becomes your greatest tool. It doesn't erase the problem, but it makes you stronger, clearer, more stable. So when you face it, you're grounded. And grounded people make better decisions. They communicate better. They hold themselves better. They don't need to yell to be heard. They don't need to collapse to be taken seriously, because their presence speaks for itself. Think about this. Every time you choose to breathe instead of react, you're building resilience. You're training your nervous system to stay steady under pressure. And when life sees you can't be shaken that easily, it stops running you over. You stop becoming the victim of every emotional wave. You become the person who rides through the storm without losing your direction. When you face moments that test your patience, your peace, your focus, your breath is always available. You don't need permission to use it. You don't need anyone else to give you space. You can find that space inside you in just a few slow inhales and exhales. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. You're not avoiding the hard stuff. You're approaching it with a clear mind and a calm heart. That's when you solve things. That's when you grow. And here's something most people don't talk about. Breathing deeply doesn't just calm you in the moment. It changes you over time. It teaches your body how to stay regulated even in the face of fear, anger, or disappointment. It strengthens your emotional stamina. It rewires how you deal with pressure. That's the kind of emotional fitness that separates people who break down from people who break through. So the next time the heat rises, the next time your hands shake or your thoughts race, remember this: the breath is there. You don't need to panic. You don't need to react. You don't need to make a decision in the chaos. You just need to breathe. Because in that breath, you reset your power. You remember who you are. And from that place, not from fear, not from pressure, but from calm, you'll know exactly what to do next. Number 3, observe your feelings without letting them take over. Most people have no idea what's really going on inside them when emotions hit. One moment they're fine, and the next, they're overwhelmed, angry, sad, or completely shut down. And instead of stopping to look at what they're actually feeling, they just react. They get cold. They raise their voice. They say things they regret. They try to numb the pain or escape the pressure. But the truth is, if you never take a moment to observe your emotions as they come, you'll keep getting ruled by them for the rest of your life. Feelings are part of the human experience. But letting them run your life? That's a decision, and it's one too many people keep making unconsciously. We've been conditioned to either act on our feelings or suppress them completely. Both extremes are dangerous. One causes chaos, the other leads to numbness. What's needed is something in between, the ability to simply notice what you're feeling without reacting to it right away. You feel anger? Okay, don't speak. Just observe it. Where do you feel it? In your chest? Your stomach? Your throat? You feel sadness. Don't hide it. Watch it. Does it come with tightness? Heaviness? Tears? This practice of observation puts space between your reaction and your awareness, and that space is where growth happens. A person who's able to say, "I feel hurt" or "I feel anxious" without needing to explain it away or lash out, that's someone who's emotionally intelligent. That's someone who doesn't get pulled into every emotional current. And you don't have to say it out loud to others. Sometimes just admitting it to yourself is powerful. I feel insecure right now. I feel rejected. I feel defensive. Naming it without shame helps take the edge off. It helps you stay grounded. Because when you name it, you're separating yourself from it. You're not saying, "I am anger." You're saying, "I feel anger." There's a big difference. When you observe your emotions this way, you're not denying them, you're understanding them. You start to see patterns. You notice that maybe your irritation isn't really about the traffic, it's about feeling out of control. Maybe your frustration isn't about your partner, it's about feeling unheard for too long. You begin to realize your reactions have roots, and those roots go deeper than most people are willing to look. But if you can stay present and watch those feelings without running from them, they start to loosen their grip. Some emotions come strong and fast, like waves. You might feel anger shoot through you after one comment, or fear rise quickly when something uncertain happens. But no emotion lasts forever. They all peak and then fall, if you let them. That's why observation matters. If you can ride that wave without panicking or reacting impulsively, you'll find that the emotion passes on its own. You don't have to suppress it. You just have to watch it and wait. And when you do, what's left is clarity, calmness, strength. That's the reward of emotional awareness. This isn't about becoming emotionally detached. It's not about pretending like you don't care or aren't affected. It's about staying aware enough to not let a temporary emotion define a permanent decision. Think of how many choices people regret because they didn't stop to observe what was really going on inside. They quit a job, ended a relationship, said something harsh, all because they couldn't sit with the discomfort for a few moments longer. But that kind of impulse leads to chaos, and that chaos always leaves a trail. There's something powerful about being able to say, "I'm feeling a lot right now, but I'm not going to act on it yet." That's maturity. That's control. You start making decisions based on who you want to be, not how you feel in the heat of the moment. And when people see that kind of calm in you, it builds respect. They may not always agree with you, but they trust you won't fly off the handle. You become someone they can count on, even when things get tough. It's also important to realize that feelings aren't facts. Just because you feel abandoned doesn't mean you are. Just because you feel attacked doesn't mean someone's out to get you. Your emotions might be valid, but they're not always accurate. When you observe them without jumping to conclusions, you give yourself a better chance to respond wisely. You avoid misreading situations. You avoid projecting your pain onto others. And that saves relationships, reputations, and peace of mind. This kind of emotional observation takes practice. It won't come naturally at first. Your instinct will be to explain, defend, blame, or act. But the more you train yourself to slow down and simply notice what's happening inside, the more emotionally grounded you become. Start small. When you feel that emotional rise, don't talk. Don't move. Just notice. What's the emotion? What's causing it? Is it really about this moment, or is it connected to something older, deeper? The more honest you are with yourself, the more power you regain. And don't be afraid to sit with uncomfortable emotions. Growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from awareness. Some people spend their whole lives running from sadness, loneliness, guilt, or shame. But the only way out is through. When you stop running and start observing, you allow healing to begin. You allow understanding to take root. And with understanding comes self-control. You stop being reactive and you start being intentional. In high-pressure situations, observation is a lifesaver. When your emotions are hot and your mind is spinning, it's the ability to look inward without judgment that separates you from the chaos. You're not trying to fix the feeling. You're not trying to fight it. You're just watching it, learning from it, and letting it pass when it's ready. That's how you build emotional discipline. That's how you earn peace in the middle of pressure. When you become the observer of your emotions, you don't become weaker. You become wiser. You don't lose your passion, you gain your purpose. And you begin to respond to life with a quiet kind of strength that doesn't need to prove anything. That kind of strength is what keeps you steady when everything else feels like it's falling apart. It doesn't mean you don't feel deeply, it means you've learned to feel without letting those feelings take over. That's the mark of someone who's done the inner work. And that work changes everything. Number 4. Create space between your emotions and your actions. You know the feeling, something happens, and your emotions take over before you even realize it. Maybe it's a rude comment, a sudden disappointment, a piece of bad news, or someone pushing your limits. And before you know it, you're reacting. You slam the door. You raise your voice. You send that angry message. You shut down. Then later, once the storm inside you settles, you ask yourself, why did I respond like that? That moment of regret? That's the cost of not creating space between how you feel and what you do. And it's one of the most common reasons people stay stuck in emotional cycles that hurt them, personally and professionally. You don't need to stop feeling. You're not supposed to turn into a robot or numb yourself. But what you do need, what we all need, is to stop being controlled by the first wave of emotion that hits. Because emotions aren't the enemy. The real danger comes when you treat every emotion like a command. Just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to act on it right away. That's where space becomes essential. That space is where reason steps in. That's where you can ask, is this action going to help or hurt me in the long run? And most people never ask that question. They just react and clean up the mess afterward. When you start creating space between how you feel and what you do, you begin to take your life back. You're no longer dragged around by emotional highs and lows. You stop making decisions that are driven by impulse. That space gives you time to think clearly, even if just for a few seconds. It helps you respond instead of explode. It allows you to show up in a way that reflects who you really are, not just who you are in a heated moment. And that's what emotional maturity looks like. The ability to feel everything, but choose your actions carefully. The real work starts when you notice the moment right before the reaction. That space isn't automatic. It's a skill. You have to build it. It begins with awareness, catching yourself before you fall into the trap. You feel tension in your body? That's a signal. You notice your jaw tightening or your voice getting louder? That's a sign you're close to crossing the line between emotion and reaction. And in that split second, your future is being shaped. That's not an exaggeration. Because how you respond to pressure will determine your relationships, your reputation, your peace, even your success. That space can be just one breath. Just one pause before you speak. 1 second of silence before you reply. It doesn't take long, but it makes a world of difference. Because in that space, you can think. You can ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What's the outcome I actually want? Is this worth the energy it will take from me? Those are the questions that don't show up in the middle of a knee-jerk reaction. They only show up in the space you make for them. And once they do, they help you act from strength, not from stress. Here's the truth most people avoid. You are not your emotions. You are the person who experiences them. And that means you have a choice. You can feel angry and still respond with clarity. You can feel hurt and still respond with dignity. You can feel disappointed and still respond with intelligence. But none of that is possible if you don't create space. If you respond the instant the emotion appears, you give it total control. And when you do that, you often say or do things that only deepen the problem. Now, the hard part is that space isn't always comfortable. Sitting with strong emotions without reacting can feel like pressure building inside. It's uncomfortable to hold that energy without letting it explode. But that discomfort? That's the training ground. That's where you build strength. That's where your emotional discipline is formed. Because every time you choose to sit in the discomfort and wait for clarity, you build a stronger version of yourself. You learn that emotions don't have to control you. They can inform you, but they don't have to own you. Think about the people in your life who always seem steady, even when things go wrong. The ones who don't yell, don't panic, don't crumble. They're not born that way. They've learned the discipline of space. They've trained themselves to respond instead of react. And it's not because they don't feel deeply. It's because they've practiced creating room between how they feel and how they behave. That kind of person commands respect, not because they force it, but because their self-control speaks louder than emotion ever could. The best part is, this discipline starts with one decision. The decision to not move too fast when emotions are high. The decision to observe without reacting. The decision to let that emotion come, sit with it, understand it, but not let it dictate your behavior. That's where transformation begins. And you won't get it perfect every time. You'll slip. You'll react. You'll catch yourself after the fact. That's part of the process. But over time, those gaps, that space, gets wider. You start catching yourself before the damage is done. And that changes everything. Even in conflict, even when someone disrespects you, even when your heart is racing, you still have the power to pause. You can still take a second to decide how you want to handle it. And often, that small second is the difference between making things worse or keeping your power. It's not about being passive or letting things slide. It's about being strategic. It's about knowing that just because you feel something strongly doesn't mean you have to act right now. You give yourself permission to wait until your response reflects wisdom, not emotion. Space is also what helps you protect the people around you. You might love someone deeply, but if you react to them harshly every time you're upset, that love gets buried. That respect gets damaged. But when you create space, even when you're frustrated, you protect that connection. You create a relationship where emotions are expressed but not weaponized. And that's the kind of environment where trust can grow. You don't owe anyone a reaction the moment you feel something. You owe it to yourself to take a moment and respond in a way that builds you, not breaks you. That space between your emotions and your actions is where the best version of you can speak. And when you learn to live from that space consistently, life changes. Not because everything gets easier, but because you've become stronger. You've built a foundation that doesn't shake every time a wave hits. And that kind of power doesn't make you emotionless. It makes you unstoppable. Number 5. Practice silence when your mind feels emotionally loud. It's an experience everyone knows too well. Your mind races, thoughts flood in all at once, and the noise inside becomes unbearable. That flood of emotions makes it feel impossible to think straight, impossible to find calm. When anger, fear, or frustration starts screaming at you from the inside, it's easy to give in, to react impulsively, to say things that you'll regret later. The louder your mind gets, the harder it is to hold on to your peace. Yet, right at that moment, silence is the most powerful tool you have. The challenge is that silence doesn't just mean no talking. It means quieting the chaos in your head, calming the storm so you can see clearly again. When the mind is emotionally loud, it's like a room filled with shouting voices, each thought competing to be heard, each feeling demanding attention. The temptation is to react right away, to speak out, to lash back. But those moments of noise inside, they don't bring clarity. They bring confusion. They cloud judgment. They invite mistakes. And many people never realize that by pushing through the noise with more noise, they are only adding fuel to the fire. Instead, what's needed is to step back and let silence take over, to allow the mind a moment to breathe and settle down. That silence isn't emptiness, it's space for wisdom to grow. Practicing silence when your mind feels emotionally loud means training yourself to pause even when every instinct screams to act. It means choosing to hold your tongue, hold your thoughts, and simply be still. This might seem impossible at first because the emotional noise feels urgent and overwhelming. You might feel like you're losing control if you stop and don't respond immediately. But this pause, this silence, is exactly what restores control. It's the place where reason regains its voice and emotions lose their grip on your behavior. In that quiet, you rediscover your true power, the ability to respond instead of react. When you make space for silence, you can listen to yourself instead of reacting to the noise around you. You can ask, what am I really feeling? What do I want to happen here? Will responding right now help or hurt? These questions rarely come out loud during emotional storms because the mind is too loud to hear them. Silence creates a shield against that noise. It calms your breathing, slows your racing heart, and clears your head. It's the moment when your body and mind sync up to make the best decision rather than the quickest one. Many people fear silence because it forces them to face their emotions directly. When you quiet the noise, you might feel sadness, anger, or disappointment more deeply. It can be uncomfortable, even painful. But silence isn't about avoidance. It's about facing emotions with courage and clarity. When the noise dies down, you see things as they really are, not just as the storm inside you makes them look. And that clear view is what helps you act wisely. It's the foundation of emotional strength. Without silence, emotions run unchecked. With silence, you take back the driver's seat in your own mind. Silence also protects you from saying or doing things you don't mean. When emotions run high, words can come out sharp and careless. Silence is the pause that prevents damage to relationships, reputation, and self-respect. By choosing quiet over quick reaction, you avoid wounds that take much longer to heal than the moment it takes to speak. This is a discipline many overlook because it requires patience and restraint, but it's one of the most valuable gifts you can give yourself and those around you. It's how you build trust, not just with others, but with your own self-control. In practice, cultivating silence means creating habits that support it. It can start with something as simple as taking a breath before answering, pausing before you speak in heated moments, or stepping into a quiet room when your mind feels overwhelmed. It might mean sitting alone for a few minutes each day without distractions, letting your thoughts settle naturally. Over time, these small moments of silence build resilience against emotional noise. They train your brain to find calm, even in chaos. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to step into silence when you need it most, when emotions threaten to take over. This silence also opens the door to deeper understanding. When your mind isn't shouting, you can reflect on why you're feeling so loud inside. You might discover hidden fears, unmet needs, or long-held resentments that fuel your emotional storms. Without silence, these remain buried beneath the noise, causing repeated patterns of reaction and regret. But with silence, you uncover the roots of your feelings and begin to address them thoughtfully. It's not about suppressing emotions, but learning from them, growing through them, and becoming stronger because of them. Most importantly, silence becomes a habit of power. It's a place where you regain balance and control, where emotions are honored but don't rule you. When your mind is loud and emotions threaten to overwhelm, silence is the sanctuary you can return to again and again. It's where peace lives. It's where clarity shines. It's where your best self waits to be heard. Practicing silence isn't easy, especially in a world that values speed and immediate response. But it is one of the most effective ways to control your emotions and master your life. The truth is, everyone faces moments when their mind feels too loud. It's part of being human. But how you handle those moments separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. Silence gives you the power to break free from the cycle of emotional chaos. It offers a way to step back, breathe, and respond with strength rather than stress. That choice, choosing silence in the noise, is where real transformation begins. It's the tool that turns emotional storms into opportunities for peace and progress. And that power is available to anyone willing to practice it. Number 6. Walk away temporarily to reset emotional clarity. There are moments in life when emotions surge like a tidal wave, completely overwhelming your ability to think clearly or act wisely. Maybe it's a heated argument, a sudden insult, or a situation spiraling out of control where every word feels like a potential explosion waiting to happen. In these critical moments, most people find themselves trapped, reacting instantly, saying things they don't mean, and deepening conflicts instead of resolving them. It's a harsh reality that many face repeatedly, feeling powerless to break free from the emotional storm. The solution often feels counterintuitive. Sometimes, the best way to regain control is simply to walk away. Temporarily removing yourself from the scene gives your mind the chance it desperately needs to calm down and regain clarity before you respond. Walking away isn't about running away or avoiding the issue forever. It's a strategic pause, a deliberate act of self-preservation and emotional intelligence. When your emotions peak, your brain's ability to process information logically diminishes drastically. The amygdala hijack, where the emotional center overtakes the rational mind, kicks in, making it nearly impossible to make thoughtful decisions or communicate effectively. Trying to push through that moment of intense feeling rarely leads to a positive outcome. Instead, stepping away temporarily interrupts this cycle, creating physical and mental distance from what triggered you. This distance allows your body to settle, your thoughts to organize, and your emotional energy to decrease. The act of walking away physically changes the dynamics of the situation. It sends a message, not of defeat or avoidance, but of respect for yourself and the other party. It shows that you are committed to resolving the issue, but only when you can engage from a place of calm and control. Often the people involved will also recognize this as a mature way to handle conflict. This pause prevents the emotional wildfire from spreading and keeps communication open instead of shutting it down completely. It's important to reassure yourself and others that walking away is temporary, that you intend to return and address the situation with a clear mind and a steady heart. During this break, the brain begins to recover from the emotional overload. The flood of adrenaline and cortisol that fuels anger or panic starts to recede, allowing the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for reasoning and decision-making, to regain function. This reset period can vary from a few minutes to longer, depending on the intensity of the situation and your personal needs. Engaging in calming activities like deep breathing, a short walk, or even just sitting quietly can enhance this recovery. The key is to avoid distractions that might add fuel to the fire, like scrolling through social media or venting to someone else who might escalate your emotional state. Walking away also creates an opportunity for self-reflection. Once you've distanced yourself from the heat of the moment, you can ask essential questions. What exactly triggered me? What am I feeling right now? Is this reaction proportional to the situation? Could there be a misunderstanding or something I'm missing? These questions help dismantle the automatic emotional response and replace it with conscious awareness. Without this break, these questions rarely surface because the mind is too focused on defense or attack. This reflection allows you to better understand not only the situation, but also yourself, your triggers, and how you typically respond under pressure. One of the hardest parts of walking away is the fear of confrontation or appearing weak. Many people worry that if they step away, they will lose control of the situation or be seen as unwilling to resolve conflicts. In reality, the opposite is true. Choosing to pause and regain composure demonstrates strength, self-control, and maturity. It's a way of owning your emotional experience rather than letting it own you. This shift in mindset is crucial because it changes how you interact with challenges. Instead of being driven by knee-jerk reactions, you become proactive in managing your emotions and fostering healthier communication. Returning to the situation after walking away is where true emotional mastery shows. When you come back, you're no longer tangled in the raw energy of your initial feelings. Instead, you approach the conversation with a clearer perspective, better listening skills, and a calmer tone. This reset can transform the dynamic entirely. The chances of reaching mutual understanding, finding solutions, or even simply de-escalating tension increase dramatically. In fact, many conflicts that seem unresolvable in the heat of the moment become manageable when both parties take the time to reset their emotional state. In daily life, practicing the habit of walking away temporarily can profoundly improve relationships, work environments, and personal well-being. It teaches you that emotional clarity is worth the short delay, that peace of mind is a priority, and that responses don't have to be immediate to be effective. It rewires your brain over time, strengthening the neural pathways that support patience, reflection, and calm action. Instead of getting caught in reactive patterns, you build a foundation for healthier interactions and greater resilience. This practice also encourages empathy, as stepping away gives you space to consider the other person's perspective more thoughtfully. Ultimately, walking away temporarily is not a sign of defeat, but a powerful tool for emotional regulation and effective communication. It requires courage to step back when everyone else is rushing forward into conflict. It demands discipline to hold yourself accountable for your emotions instead of blaming others. But it also offers freedom. Freedom from the chaos that uncontrolled feelings create, and freedom to choose your responses with intention and care. This practice is one of the clearest paths toward mastering emotional clarity and creating space for peace in moments that feel anything but peaceful. Number 7. Journal your emotions instead of reacting immediately. Emotional turmoil hits everyone at some point, moments where your feelings feel too loud, too urgent, and the world seems to demand an immediate reaction. Whether it's anger flaring up from a harsh word, sadness from a personal setback, or frustration triggered by someone's behavior, these intense emotions often push us toward impulsive responses that we later regret. It's a harsh reality many face daily, feeling overwhelmed, unable to pause, and rushing headlong into reactions that complicate situations or harm relationships. In the midst of this chaos, a powerful yet underrated tool exists: journaling your emotions instead of reacting immediately. Writing down your feelings can provide a mental refuge, a safe space where you untangle the knots of emotion before you respond to the world around you. When emotions surge, the natural instinct is to respond instantly, often without thinking through the consequences. This immediate reaction can escalate conflicts, deepen misunderstandings, or cause regret. But taking the time to journal acts like a pressure valve for these built-up feelings. The act of putting pen to paper slows down the emotional rush, allowing your mind to shift from reactive to reflective. By externalizing your feelings, you create distance between your inner emotional state and your outward behavior. This separation is crucial because it gives you the chance to observe what you're experiencing, identify patterns, and understand the root causes of your reactions before you engage with others or make decisions that might worsen the situation. Journaling doesn't require perfect grammar or poetic language. It only demands honesty and consistency. When you commit to writing about your emotions regularly, you develop a habit that supports emotional regulation. This practice helps you recognize how certain situations or people trigger specific feelings. Over time, your journal becomes a mirror reflecting your emotional landscape, enabling you to spot recurring themes and unhealthy patterns that fuel impulsive reactions. Awareness is the first step toward change, and journaling cultivates this awareness by shining light on the often confusing and tangled web of your emotional responses. It encourages a deeper connection with yourself and fosters emotional intelligence, which is vital for handling life's challenges effectively. Writing down your feelings also helps you articulate emotions that might otherwise stay buried or manifest as vague discomfort or irritability. Sometimes people don't even realize why they feel upset until they start putting words to those feelings. Journaling guides you through this discovery process by inviting questions like, what exactly am I feeling? Why did this event affect me this way? How do I want to respond? These questions slow down your emotional response and replace impulsivity with intention. You shift from being controlled by your feelings to choosing how to express or address them in a way that preserves your peace and dignity. This clarity is hard to achieve when emotions are swirling inside without any outlet. Another benefit of journaling is that it provides a private sanctuary for vulnerability. In many social or professional settings, openly sharing raw emotions can feel risky or inappropriate. The fear of judgment or misunderstanding often silences authentic expression, which leads to emotional buildup and eventual outbursts. Writing privately removes that barrier. It lets you be completely honest with yourself without fearing repercussions. This honesty promotes healing and growth because you are not hiding from your feelings or pretending they don't exist. Instead, you're meeting them head-on and processing them constructively. The journal becomes a trusted confidant, a place where your emotions can unfold naturally and safely. Journaling also enhances your problem-solving abilities in emotionally charged situations. After you've expressed your feelings on paper, you can step back and approach the problem more logically. The clarity that comes from this process allows you to brainstorm solutions without the fog of intense emotion clouding your judgment. You can weigh options, consider consequences, and decide on the best course of action that aligns with your values and long-term well-being. This prevents rash decisions that often come from reacting impulsively and instead promotes thoughtful, deliberate choices. Over time, this habit builds emotional resilience and equips you with a powerful skill set for navigating difficult moments gracefully. Many people underestimate the transformative power of journaling because it seems like a simple activity, but its impact on emotional regulation is profound. It trains your mind to pause and reflect, rather than rush and react. This shift is essential in a world that often rewards speed and immediacy over mindfulness. Through journaling, you reclaim your emotional narrative and rewrite how you respond to triggers. Instead of being swept away by waves of anger, anxiety, or sadness, you learn to ride those waves with balance and calm. The more you journal, the more you strengthen your ability to remain centered amid chaos, which improves your relationships, productivity, and inner peace. Incorporating journaling into your daily routine might seem daunting at first, especially if you're not used to expressing your emotions openly. But starting with just a few sentences a day can create meaningful momentum. The key is consistency, not perfection. Over time, this practice will become a natural outlet for your emotions and a powerful tool for emotional clarity. You'll find that you react less impulsively, communicate more clearly, and understand yourself better. Journaling is not just about recording your feelings, it's about transforming your emotional landscape, giving you the space to grow, heal, and respond to life with wisdom and grace instead of chaos and regret. Number 8. Remind yourself that not everything deserves a reaction. In life, one of the most challenging realities many people face is the constant barrage of situations, comments, and events that seem designed to provoke a reaction. Whether it's a snide remark from a coworker, an unexpected setback, or even just the overwhelming noise of everyday stressors, our minds are often primed to respond immediately, feeding off the emotional energy of these triggers. The harsh truth is that much of what happens around us simply isn't worth the emotional currency it demands. Yet, we get caught up in the moment, reacting as if every slight or inconvenience requires our full attention and energy. This tendency drains our emotional reserves and keeps us trapped in cycles of stress and frustration. The critical breakthrough lies in consistently reminding yourself that not everything deserves a reaction. This simple but powerful mindset shift can free you from needless emotional turmoil and help you preserve your inner peace. When you constantly react to every irritation or provocation, you give away your power. You hand over control of your emotional state to external factors that are often trivial or beyond your influence. The energy spent on unnecessary reactions compounds quickly, leaving you exhausted and overwhelmed. It's like being in a storm where you try to stop every raindrop from falling, which is impossible and utterly draining. By reminding yourself that many things simply don't warrant a response, you begin to reclaim control over your emotional landscape. This reminder isn't about suppressing your feelings or becoming indifferent. It's about recognizing the value of your peace and choosing when and where to invest your emotional energy wisely. It's an act of self-respect and emotional intelligence that requires consistent practice. This mental discipline starts with awareness. You must catch yourself in the moment of irritation or agitation and ask, does this truly require my reaction? Will responding change the outcome in a meaningful way? Is this worth disrupting my calm? Such questions force a pause that often reveals the futility of reacting. The power of this pause cannot be overstated because it interrupts automatic emotional impulses. When you practice this consistently, you retrain your brain to distinguish between genuine threats or important issues and minor annoyances or provocations that are better left alone. This separation helps you conserve emotional energy for what truly matters, whether that's meaningful conversations, productive problem-solving, or nurturing relationships. Reminding yourself to withhold reaction also protects your mental clarity. Emotional reactions often cloud judgment, distort perspective, and escalate conflicts unnecessarily. When you learn to sit with discomfort without immediately acting on it, you give your mind space to process and understand the situation more objectively. This can prevent misunderstandings, reduce drama, and foster healthier interactions. It's like stepping back from a fire long enough to see the bigger picture rather than getting burned by sparks flying too close. In the long run, this restraint cultivates a calm presence that others notice and respect. It becomes a powerful form of leadership over your emotional world, enabling you to respond rather than react impulsively. It's important to recognize that withholding reaction doesn't mean ignoring problems or bottling up emotions. Instead, it's a strategic choice about timing and energy. Some issues deserve thoughtful responses, but many don't deserve your immediate or full emotional involvement. This approach requires practicing patience and discernment, understanding that sometimes the best action is to do nothing at all, at least temporarily. When you remind yourself regularly that not everything deserves a reaction, you create mental space for perspective, healing, and wiser choices. It prevents you from being hijacked by emotional hijackers and instead allows you to respond with clarity and intention. This mindset also encourages emotional resilience. By deciding not to react to every disturbance, you build tolerance for discomfort and uncertainty. You learn that your peace does not depend on controlling external events, but on how you choose to engage with them. This realization is liberating because it shifts your focus inward, empowering you to manage your internal world regardless of external chaos. Over time, this discipline transforms your relationship with stress, conflict, and adversity. You become less reactive and more composed, able to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and strength. Your emotional well-being becomes a steady anchor rather than a fragile sail buffeted by every wind. Moreover, reminding yourself that not everything deserves a reaction can improve your relationships significantly. When you don't respond to every provocation or frustration, you avoid unnecessary arguments and misunderstandings that strain connections. People sense your calmness and are more likely to approach you with respect and openness. This doesn't mean you become passive or avoid important conversations, but you engage with others from a place of calm rather than agitation. Your responses become measured and thoughtful, fostering mutual understanding rather than conflict. In this way, choosing when not to react becomes a tool for deeper, healthier relationships. In practice, this discipline can be cultivated through simple daily habits. Begin by noticing your impulses to react in conversations, online interactions, or stressful situations. When you feel the urge rising, pause and silently repeat the reminder. Not everything deserves my reaction. Let this thought serve as a mental reset button that calms the emotional storm within. Over time, this habit rewires your brain to prioritize peace and clarity over agitation and impulsiveness. You may find that many triggers lose their grip on you, and your emotional life becomes more balanced and manageable. In summary, the relentless pressure to react to every emotional trigger can be exhausting and counterproductive. By reminding yourself consistently that not everything deserves a reaction, you reclaim your emotional power and preserve your inner peace. This practice nurtures patience, resilience, and wisdom, allowing you to navigate life's challenges with grace. It transforms how you engage with the world, helping you respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. When you master this mindset, you break free from needless emotional chaos and create a stable foundation for peace, clarity, and meaningful connection. It's a fundamental shift that can elevate every area of your life, starting with how you manage your own emotions. Number 9. Use grounding techniques when emotions feel too strong. It's an all-too-familiar scene. You're suddenly overwhelmed by a surge of intense emotions that feel like a tidal wave crashing over your mind and body. Your heart races, your thoughts scatter wildly, and the urge to act or react impulsively becomes almost unbearable. These moments happen to everyone, no matter how emotionally mature or stable they seem on the outside. Life throws triggers at us constantly, unexpected criticisms, conflicts, or even personal disappointments. And sometimes our emotions spiral so rapidly that they threaten to swallow us whole. When emotions feel too strong, the key to regaining control lies not in fighting them or running away, but in rooting yourself firmly in the present moment through grounding techniques. These methods anchor you to reality, help calm the chaos inside, and create a crucial pause that stops emotional overwhelm from taking over your actions and decisions. Grounding techniques work by reconnecting your mind and body with the here and now, diverting your attention from swirling thoughts or overwhelming feelings to something tangible and immediate. One of the simplest yet most effective grounding practices involves engaging your 5 senses consciously. For example, you might focus on what you see around you, the colors, shapes, or textures of nearby objects. You could then shift your attention to sounds, the hum of a fan, birds chirping outside, or distant conversations. Touch also plays a powerful role. Feeling the solid surface beneath your feet, the texture of your clothing, or the coolness of a glass of water can bring your scattered thoughts back into the physical world. The more you immerse yourself in these sensory experiences, the less space there is for runaway emotions to dominate your mind. Another grounding technique that many find effective is controlled breathing combined with a mental checklist. When emotions surge, taking deep, slow breaths signals your nervous system to shift from a heightened fight-or-flight state toward calmness. While breathing steadily, you can silently name and count things around you. I see 3 chairs. I hear 2 birds. I feel the roughness of this fabric. This simple practice distracts your brain from overwhelming feelings and provides it with a structured, calming activity. It is not about denying your emotions, but rather about giving yourself a moment to reset before deciding how to engage with whatever triggered you. In these moments, grounding techniques serve as emotional circuit breakers that prevent impulsive reactions and preserve your mental balance. Physical movement is another valuable grounding strategy. When emotions feel unbearable, a brief walk, stretching, or even stomping your feet on the ground can channel that restless energy away from your mind and into your body. The act of moving helps release tension stored in muscles and redirects blood flow, promoting relaxation. This is especially helpful when your emotions are accompanied by physical symptoms like tightness in your chest, rapid heartbeat, or jitteriness. The body and mind are intimately connected, and grounding through physical activity reminds you that you are more than your emotional responses. You are a living, breathing being capable of calm, deliberate action. Movement reconnects you with your physical self, balancing emotional turbulence with somatic stability. Visual grounding techniques also offer profound support during emotional overwhelm. Imagining yourself in a safe, peaceful place, whether it's a real location you've been to or a completely imagined sanctuary, can soothe your nervous system and foster a sense of security. This visualization acts like a mental anchor, pulling you away from the intensity of current emotions toward calm and clarity. Sometimes, focusing on an object like a small stone, a piece of jewelry, or even your own hands can serve the same purpose. Paying close attention to its shape, texture, and weight can remind you that you are grounded in the present moment, no matter how stormy your inner world feels. This conscious focus slows the emotional flood and allows space for thoughtful responses instead of reactive impulses. Incorporating grounding techniques into your daily routine can also build emotional resilience over time. When you practice these strategies regularly, your nervous system becomes better equipped to handle stress and emotional surges. You'll find that you don't get swept away as easily by negative feelings or sudden outbursts of anger, anxiety, or sadness. Instead, you develop a mental habit of returning to your center, a place of calm observance and measured response. This habit transforms your relationship with intense emotions from one of fear and helplessness to one of mastery and understanding. Grounding is not about avoidance. It's about creating a healthy emotional rhythm where intense feelings can rise and fall without consuming you. It's important to remember that grounding doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or pretending everything is fine. On the contrary, it's about holding your emotional experience gently and compassionately while preventing it from overwhelming your capacity to think clearly and act wisely. When emotions feel too strong, they often hijack our ability to reason, leading to actions we later regret or situations we unnecessarily escalate. Grounding techniques serve as a buffer, giving your mind the precious seconds it needs to catch up with your feelings and choose a better way forward. This pause, no matter how brief, is where transformation happens, where you move from reaction to response, from chaos to calm. One of the most challenging aspects of grounding is remembering to use these techniques in the heat of the moment. Emotions tend to be lightning fast, and it takes conscious effort to interrupt their automatic flow. This is why regular practice during calm periods is so essential. Training yourself to recognize the earliest signs of emotional overwhelm allows you to apply grounding methods proactively before feelings spiral out of control. This proactive approach shifts your entire emotional management from crisis mode to prevention, greatly reducing the frequency and intensity of emotional floods. With time and patience, grounding becomes second nature, a reliable tool you carry with you into every situation, ready to restore your calm and clarity when needed most. In conclusion, when emotions become too strong, grounding techniques offer an essential lifeline back to yourself. By engaging your senses, regulating your breath, moving your body, and focusing your mind, you reclaim control over your emotional state and prevent overwhelm from dictating your behavior. These techniques create a safe mental space where you can experience your emotions fully, but without losing yourself in them. Grounding is a vital skill for emotional regulation, resilience, and peace, enabling you to navigate life's inevitable challenges with steadiness and grace. It reminds you that no matter how intense feelings get, you always have the power to find balance within. Number 10. Reflect on your triggers to understand them better. There's a harsh truth many people face daily without realizing it. Most of our emotional reactions are not truly about the present moment, but rooted deeply in past experiences and unresolved wounds. When someone says something harsh or a situation feels unfair, it often feels like an instant emotional explosion, but beneath that immediate response lies a complex network of triggers that have been quietly shaping our reactions over time. Understanding what specifically triggers us is one of the most powerful keys to emotional mastery. It's not enough to just know we get upset or defensive. We must dig deeper to recognize the patterns, memories, or fears that ignite those emotional fires. Only through reflection can we bring awareness to these automatic reactions, giving ourselves the chance to respond consciously instead of being controlled by invisible forces we barely understand. Reflecting on your triggers is a courageous process that requires honesty and patience. It's tempting to blame others or external events for the way we feel, but true growth begins when we look inward with curiosity rather than judgment. Ask yourself, what exactly is it about this situation that hurts or frustrates me? Is there a past experience, a childhood memory, or a repeated pattern in relationships that this moment echoes? Often, what triggers us are not the words or actions themselves, but what they symbolize: rejection, abandonment, betrayal, or feelings of inadequacy. Pinpointing these underlying causes brings light to the shadows in our emotional landscape, allowing us to see that our reactions are not random but connected to deeper unmet needs or fears that deserve attention and healing. One practical way to reflect on your triggers is to keep a trigger journal. After a moment when you feel emotionally stirred, take time to write down the situation, your immediate reaction, and then explore what feelings and thoughts arose beneath the surface. Try to identify recurring themes or sensations. You might notice that criticism from others repeatedly causes you to shut down or lash out, revealing an old wound related to self-worth. Or perhaps feeling ignored ignites anger, pointing to a core fear of invisibility or neglect. Writing these reflections allows your mind to organize what feels chaotic and confusing, transforming emotional storms into understandable signals. This practice creates a powerful feedback loop where insight grows with each entry, helping you map your unique emotional triggers and prepare for them more effectively in the future. It's also essential to approach this reflection without harsh self-judgment. Many triggers are connected to childhood experiences or past trauma that are painful to acknowledge. The goal is not to blame yourself for having these triggers, but to show yourself compassion as you learn what they reveal. Emotional triggers are survival mechanisms, often developed long ago when we needed protection from harm or rejection. By recognizing their origins, you reclaim your power to choose how they influence your present. This self-compassionate awareness creates a safe internal environment where growth becomes possible, reducing shame and increasing emotional flexibility. The more you reflect and understand, the less power your triggers hold over your behavior, allowing space for thoughtful responses instead of reactive outbursts. Reflection on triggers also opens the door to preventative emotional management. When you become aware of specific situations or people that commonly provoke intense feelings, you can plan ahead to cope more skillfully. This might mean setting boundaries with certain individuals, preparing calming techniques before a difficult conversation, or simply reminding yourself that your reaction is tied to old wounds, not the current reality. This proactive mindset changes the emotional landscape from one of surprise and overwhelm to one of anticipation and control. Understanding your triggers transforms them from hidden landmines into known challenges you can navigate with increasing confidence and calmness. Beyond personal growth, reflecting on your triggers has a profound impact on your relationships. Many conflicts arise not because of what the other person intends, but because of what your triggers cause you to project or react with. When you understand your emotional hotspots, you can communicate more clearly and avoid blaming others for your feelings. This clarity fosters empathy on both sides and helps diffuse misunderstandings before they escalate. It also encourages forgiveness and patience, recognizing that everyone carries their own triggers and struggles. Reflective awareness allows you to approach others with a gentler heart and steadier mind, nurturing healthier, more harmonious connections. Reflection is not a one-time event, but an ongoing practice. As you grow and evolve, new triggers may emerge, and old ones may shift in intensity. Life is constantly changing, and so is your emotional terrain, making reflection a regular habit. Whether through journaling, meditation, or quiet contemplation, keeps you in tune with your inner world. This continuous self-awareness helps you catch emotional reactions early, preventing them from overwhelming you. It also deepens your understanding of yourself, building a foundation for resilience and emotional intelligence that sustains you through life's inevitable challenges. In truth, reflecting on your triggers is a revolutionary act of self-care and empowerment. It breaks the cycle of unconscious reactivity that so often leads to regret, conflict, and inner turmoil. By bringing light to the roots of your emotional responses, you take back control and create space for healing, growth, and peace. This journey demands vulnerability and courage, but rewards you with clarity, wisdom, and the freedom to live with greater emotional balance. When you commit to this reflection, you no longer have to be a prisoner to your triggers. Instead, you become the mindful observer who navigates life with steady calm and confident self-mastery. Number 11. Choose thoughtful action instead of impulsive reaction. There is a common struggle that nearly everyone experiences but rarely talks about openly: the battle between immediate emotional reaction and the deliberate choice to respond thoughtfully. When we feel hurt, angry, or frustrated, the first impulse is often to lash out, defend ourselves, or shut down. This instinctual reaction might feel like the easiest path in the moment because it's fast and automatic, but it almost always leads to regret, damaged relationships, or a deepening of inner turmoil. The truth is, life constantly presents situations that test our emotional control, and it's the quality of our response, not the trigger itself, that determines our peace and success. Choosing thoughtful action means stepping back from the edge of emotional eruption and consciously deciding how to act in a way that serves our long-term well-being rather than short-term relief. Understanding the difference between reaction and response is crucial. Reaction is impulsive, immediate, and often rooted in emotional intensity or old patterns of behavior. It's that quick snapback that happens before your mind has a chance to process the information fully. On the other hand, response is intentional and measured, arising from a place of awareness, calm, and reflection. The power of choosing thoughtful action lies in this pause a moment where you refuse to be a puppet to your emotions and instead become the author of your behavior. This pause is not weakness, it's a profound act of strength and self-respect. It gives you the ability to navigate difficult interactions with wisdom and grace, avoiding unnecessary conflict and preserving your integrity. One of the most challenging aspects of choosing thoughtful action is resisting the urge to act on the immediate flood of feelings that demand expression. Anger, fear, sadness, they all scream for recognition and often push us toward rash words or deeds. But within that turmoil exists a space where you can decide how to channel those emotions productively. This might mean taking a deep breath, asking for time to think, or even simply remaining silent. Thoughtful action doesn't imply suppressing feelings or pretending nothing is wrong. Instead, it encourages you to honor your emotions while refusing to be controlled by them. This balance is delicate but transformative. It allows you to express yourself in ways that foster understanding rather than conflict, healing instead of harm. Developing this ability requires practice and commitment. Start by recognizing moments when your emotions spike and catch yourself before reacting. Create a mental or physical ritual that helps you transition from emotional impulse to thoughtful decision-making. This could be counting to 10, visualizing a calming image, or rehearsing a calm response in your mind. Over time, these habits build neural pathways that support emotional regulation, making it easier to access thoughtful action even under pressure. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes to respond with clarity and purpose, even in highly charged situations. This skill not only improves your emotional health, but also strengthens your relationships, professional interactions, and overall quality of life. Choosing thoughtful action also means accepting responsibility for your role in every interaction. It's easy to blame others for how we feel or act, but true emotional maturity comes when you acknowledge that, regardless of external circumstances, your response is your choice. This mindset empowers you, shifting you from victimhood to authorship of your life story. When you take ownership of your actions, you create space for growth and transformation. Instead of repeating patterns of hurt or conflict, you start crafting new narratives grounded in respect, patience, and intentionality. This perspective frees you from the chains of reactive behavior and opens a path to deeper self-awareness and emotional freedom. The ripple effects of choosing thoughtful action extend far beyond immediate moments of conflict. When you respond with intention and care, you model emotional intelligence for those around you, friends, family, colleagues, and even strangers. This example inspires others to cultivate the same restraint and consideration, contributing to healthier environments and communities. Thoughtful action fosters communication that builds bridges rather than walls, inviting connection where there might otherwise be division. It's a quiet yet powerful force that can transform toxic cycles of misunderstanding into opportunities for growth and reconciliation. By committing to thoughtful action, you become a catalyst for peace in your own life and in the lives of others. At its core, choosing thoughtful action is about aligning your behavior with your values and long-term goals. It's about refusing to let momentary emotions sabotage your vision for a peaceful, fulfilled life. This choice demands courage because it often means holding back your immediate instincts and risking vulnerability. You may face criticism, misunderstandings, or even feel isolated when you refuse to react impulsively. Yet this path leads to greater self-respect and inner calm. When you consistently choose to act thoughtfully, you build resilience and emotional strength that withstand life's inevitable storms. You become less reactive and more proactive, less driven by chaos and more guided by clarity and purpose. In practical terms, thoughtful action transforms how you handle daily challenges, from heated conversations to personal setbacks. Instead of escalating tension with sharp words, you learn to speak with measured honesty, prioritizing solutions over blame. When faced with disappointment, you respond with acceptance and proactive planning rather than frustration or despair. This shift not only improves your immediate circumstances but also nurtures a mindset of growth and possibility. Over time, you find that your emotional energy is no longer drained by unnecessary battles, but channeled into constructive efforts that uplift you and those around you. This way of living, rooted in thoughtful action, creates a foundation of peace that can weather any storm life throws your way. Ultimately, choosing thoughtful action is a transformative skill that redefines your relationship with yourself and the world. It invites you to break free from automatic patterns that trap you in cycles of emotional chaos and instead cultivate a steady, empowered presence. It is not a quick fix or a simple tactic, but a lifelong commitment to emotional mastery and integrity. When you embrace this approach, you stop being a slave to your impulses and become the deliberate creator of your life experience. The rewards are immense: deeper peace, stronger relationships, and a life lived with intention and grace. This is the power that comes from choosing thoughtful action instead of impulsive reaction, an essential step toward true emotional freedom and fulfillment. Number 12. Control your facial expressions to calm your brain. There's a harsh reality that many people don't realize about how deeply our facial expressions influence our emotional state and mental clarity. When confronted with stress, anger, or anxiety, it's almost instinctive to scrunch your face, frown, or tighten your jaw. These subtle yet powerful physical responses are not just outward signs of how you feel, they actively shape what's happening inside your brain. The tension in your facial muscles sends feedback to your nervous system, often amplifying negative emotions and triggering further stress reactions. What most don't understand is that by consciously controlling your facial expressions, you can effectively regulate your brain's emotional response, helping yourself maintain calm and clarity even in the most difficult moments. This connection between face and mind is a profound tool for emotional mastery that is widely overlooked but incredibly effective. The science behind this phenomenon is clear. The brain processes information not only through our thoughts, but also through physical feedback from the body. Your face is loaded with muscles that communicate emotional signals both to yourself and others. When you tighten your forehead or clench your teeth, your brain receives messages of tension, danger, or anger. This can lead to a vicious cycle where your feelings worsen simply because of the way your face is held. But the good news is the reverse is also true. When you relax your facial muscles, soften your eyes, and allow your jaw to unclench, the calming signals travel back to your brain, reducing the production of stress hormones and activating the parasympathetic nervous system. This shift leads to a significant drop in emotional intensity and helps you regain mental control. Essentially, controlling your face can serve as a quick and accessible emotional reset button. One of the most challenging parts of emotional regulation is that feelings often overwhelm before the mind has a chance to process them. Facial expressions are an immediate response that tends to happen without conscious thought, making them a prime target for intervention. Developing awareness of your face and its expressions becomes the first step in breaking automatic emotional escalation. Start by tuning in to moments when your face tightens, whether during an argument, a stressful meeting, or when you feel judged. Recognize these moments as signals that your brain is ramping up its emotional response. From there, deliberately soften your expression, relax your forehead, release your jaw, and smooth your brow. This physical act may seem small or awkward at first, but it quickly becomes a powerful anchor that grounds you in calmness and helps prevent emotional spirals. Incorporating control over your facial expressions into daily life can transform how you handle social interactions and personal challenges. When you manage your face, you not only soothe your own nervous system, but also influence how others perceive and respond to you. People are naturally attuned to facial cues, and a calm, relaxed face can diffuse tension and invite cooperation. This is especially valuable in conflict situations where a hostile or anxious expression might escalate the problem further. By consciously choosing to present a composed face, you set a tone of stability and openness that fosters better communication. Moreover, when you maintain a calm facial expression, your brain is more likely to process information rationally, allowing you to think clearly and make wiser decisions instead of reacting impulsively. Mastering this skill requires patience and mindful practice, because the brain and body are wired to react automatically. It's not about suppressing genuine emotion or pretending to be unaffected, but about choosing the physical expressions that support your emotional balance. Techniques like mirror work, where you observe your own face in a mirror and practice softening tense muscles, can help build this awareness. Additionally, pairing this practice with slow, deep breathing enhances the calming effect by sending multiple signals of relaxation to your brain. Over time, controlling your facial expressions becomes second nature, and you'll notice a natural reduction in anxiety, anger, and stress responses. This creates a feedback loop of calmness that strengthens your emotional resilience in all areas of life. The impact of controlling your facial expressions goes beyond immediate emotional relief. It contributes to long-term emotional intelligence and self-regulation. When you consistently manage your face to stay calm, you are training your brain to respond to stress with greater composure and less reactivity. This rewiring helps reduce chronic stress levels and promotes mental clarity, improving both your health and your relationships. It also allows you to step into situations with greater confidence, knowing that you have a tool to help maintain your inner equilibrium. This is especially important in high-stakes environments such as leadership roles, customer service, or personal crises, where maintaining a calm presence is essential. By mastering this subtle but powerful technique, you elevate your emotional mastery to a new level that others will notice and respect. Importantly, controlling your facial expressions aligns perfectly with the broader goal of emotional regulation, which is to create space between stimulus and response. When you feel the surge of emotion rising, the moment you consciously soften your face, you interrupt the automatic cycle of tension and reactivity. This pause is a gateway to choosing thoughtful, effective responses rather than impulsive ones. You gain the ability to decide how you want to show up emotionally and physically in the world, rather than being driven by uncontrolled feelings. This sense of control enhances your self-esteem and sense of agency, empowering you to navigate life's emotional challenges with greater ease and dignity. It also strengthens your capacity for empathy, as a calm expression invites openness and understanding in others. Finally, remember that controlling your facial expressions is not about perfection or emotional suppression. It's about awareness, intention, and kindness toward yourself. Everyone experiences moments of tension and emotional overwhelm. These are part of being human. The difference is how you choose to handle them. By learning to manage your face, you give your brain a powerful tool to regain calmness quickly and effectively. This simple but profound practice creates a ripple effect that improves your emotional health, strengthens your relationships, and enhances your overall quality of life. It's a foundational skill that, when mastered, supports every other aspect of emotional discipline and peace. In a world filled with constant stimuli and pressure, controlling your facial expressions offers a quiet, accessible sanctuary of calm right within you. Number 13. Practice meditation daily to master emotional discipline. Almost everyone struggles with controlling their emotions at some point, whether it's during a heated conversation, a stressful deadline, or an unexpected life challenge. The truth is, emotions can feel overwhelming, like a relentless tide pulling us under without warning. Many people try to push their feelings away or distract themselves, but this often leads to more turmoil instead of relief. What most don't realize is that emotional mastery doesn't come from fighting or ignoring emotions. It comes from training the mind to remain calm and clear amid the chaos. This is where daily meditation becomes a game changer, offering a practical, proven way to build emotional discipline over time. Meditation is not about escaping reality. It's about grounding yourself deeply in the present moment, creating a stable inner foundation from which emotional storms can be weathered with grace. Meditation works by rewiring the brain and nervous system in subtle but profound ways. When you sit quietly and focus your attention, whether on your breath, a mantra, or simply observing your thoughts, you activate the brain's prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain is responsible for self-regulation, thoughtful decision-making, and impulse control. With consistent practice, meditation strengthens these functions, making it easier to pause and choose your response instead of reacting automatically. Simultaneously, meditation calms the amygdala, the brain's emotional center that often triggers fight-or-flight reactions when we feel threatened. By quieting the amygdala's alarm system, meditation reduces overall stress levels and makes emotional triggers less intense. This neurological shift is why people who meditate regularly tend to feel more balanced and less reactive, even in the most challenging moments. One of the biggest barriers to emotional discipline is how quickly our minds jump to negative or reactive thoughts. Meditation teaches us to notice these thoughts without becoming entangled in them. Imagine your mind as a vast sky and your thoughts as passing clouds, some bright and light, others dark and heavy. Meditation cultivates the ability to simply observe these clouds without grabbing onto them, allowing your mental space to remain open and clear. This act of detached observation prevents emotions from spiraling out of control and gives you the precious seconds needed to respond wisely rather than impulsively. Over time, this ability to step back from emotional turbulence strengthens your overall emotional intelligence, making you more resilient and compassionate in your interactions with yourself and others. The beauty of meditation lies in its simplicity and accessibility. It doesn't require any special equipment, a lot of time, or a particular location. Even 5 to 10 minutes a day can bring noticeable benefits. Starting a meditation practice can be as straightforward as sitting comfortably, closing your eyes, and focusing on your breath. When your mind wanders, which it inevitably will, you gently bring your attention back without judgment. This repeated act of returning focus trains your brain to stay centered, even when distractions or emotional upheavals arise. Many people find that integrating meditation into their daily routine creates a steady source of calm and clarity that spills over into all aspects of life, from managing stress at work to navigating difficult relationships. Besides improving emotional control, meditation enhances self-awareness, which is a cornerstone of emotional discipline. When you meditate, you become more attuned to your inner landscape, your thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations. This increased awareness allows you to recognize early signs of emotional escalation before they fully develop. For example, you might notice tension building in your shoulders, a quickening heartbeat, or a tightening in your chest. Recognizing these signals gives you a chance to intervene, using breathing techniques, mindfulness, or simply pausing to regain composure. Without this self-awareness, emotions can catch you off guard, leading to impulsive reactions that often result in regret. Meditation cultivates this awareness gradually, empowering you to handle emotional challenges proactively rather than reactively. Many skeptics view meditation as a passive or mystical activity, but research confirms its powerful effects on emotional regulation. Studies show that regular meditators have reduced levels of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, and increased activity in brain regions associated with positive emotions and empathy. These biological changes translate into real-world benefits: greater patience, improved mood, better focus, and stronger relationships. Meditation also fosters compassion toward oneself and others, which softens harsh judgments and reactive anger. This compassionate mindset is critical for emotional discipline because it shifts the focus from blame or frustration to understanding and connection. By practicing meditation, you don't just become calmer, you become wiser and kinder, able to respond with empathy rather than defensiveness. One of the most transformative aspects of meditation is how it helps you reclaim control over your mind's narrative. Our emotions are often tied to stories we tell ourselves about failure, rejection, injustice, or fear. These stories can spiral into cycles of rumination and anxiety, keeping us trapped in emotional turmoil. Meditation allows you to step outside these stories and see them as temporary mental events rather than absolute truths. This perspective shift is liberating because it breaks the hold of negative thought patterns and reduces their emotional charge. When you practice meditation daily, you create mental space where you can choose to engage with thoughts constructively or let them pass without consequence. This freedom from automatic mental loops is essential for maintaining emotional discipline and cultivating inner peace. It's important to approach meditation with patience and kindness, especially in the beginning. Many people experience frustration when their minds feel busy or when emotions arise during practice. This is entirely normal and part of the process. The goal is not to achieve a perfect state of calm immediately, but to build the habit of returning your attention and allowing your emotions to come and go without resistance. Over time, these small daily acts accumulate into profound changes in brain function and emotional resilience. The key is consistency, showing up each day, even when it's difficult, and trusting the process. As meditation becomes a regular part of your life, you'll notice a deeper capacity to handle stress, greater emotional clarity, and a more peaceful presence that others will recognize and appreciate. Ultimately, daily meditation is not a magic cure, but a disciplined practice that trains your mind like a muscle. Emotional discipline, much like physical fitness, requires consistent effort and dedication. The rewards, however, are immense. You gain the power to choose your responses thoughtfully, maintain composure under pressure, and create a life anchored in peace rather than chaos. This skill transforms how you experience yourself and the world, enabling you to face life's inevitable challenges with confidence and serenity. Meditation is the foundation upon which all other emotional regulation strategies are built, making it an indispensable tool for anyone seeking to master their emotions and live with greater wisdom and balance. Number 14. Speak slowly when emotions try to rush you. In the heat of the moment, it's incredibly common to feel your emotions surge like a tidal wave, pushing you to respond instantly without thinking. Most people have experienced the pressure to react quickly, whether in an argument, a stressful meeting, or a personal confrontation. The reality is that when emotions take over, our brains tend to operate on autopilot, often leading to words and actions that we later regret deeply. The truth many overlook is that the pace of how we communicate directly impacts the quality of our responses. Speaking slowly is a simple yet powerful tool that helps to tame this impulsiveness, giving your mind the necessary space to process emotions, weigh your thoughts, and deliver a calm, clear message instead of a chaotic outburst. This practice is not just about pacing your speech, but about reclaiming control over your emotional impulses when they threaten to overwhelm your rational mind. When emotions rush through you, your body responds in kind heart races, breath quickens, and thoughts race in a confusing flood. These physical changes push you to speak quickly, almost as if you are trying to get your feelings out before they get worse. However, this rapid-fire response usually fuels misunderstandings, escalates tension, and makes conflicts harder to resolve. By deliberately slowing your speech, you signal to your brain and body that it's time to pause and regroup. The act of slowing down your words activates your prefrontal cortex, the brain area responsible for rational thinking and decision-making. This neurological intervention interrupts the automatic emotional reaction, allowing you to think through what you really want to say and how you want to say it. The result is a communication style that promotes understanding, reduces hostility, and preserves relationships even under stress. Speaking slowly also allows the people around you to absorb what you're saying more effectively. When conversations happen at a frantic pace, important points get lost, emotions escalate, and empathy diminishes. On the other hand, measured speech invites listeners to engage more deeply, encouraging a more thoughtful exchange rather than a heated battle. This gives you an edge in difficult conversations because it shows you are composed and respectful, even if the topic is contentious. Others are more likely to mirror your calmness and patience, creating a more constructive atmosphere. In this way, slowing your speech is not just about managing your own emotions, but about influencing the emotional climate of the interaction, steering it toward resolution rather than conflict. Moreover, slowing down your speech provides time to choose your words carefully. When emotions run high, it's easy to say things that are hurtful, inaccurate, or exaggerative. These impulsive words often cause damage that is difficult to repair later. By speaking slowly, you build a natural buffer that reduces the likelihood of verbal mistakes or outbursts. This buffer time lets you check in with yourself. Are these words true? Are they kind? Are they necessary? This mindful approach to language is a form of emotional discipline because it puts intention before expression. It helps you move from reactive communication to responsive communication, which is always more effective and respectful. Practicing this consistently transforms your conversations and relationships, making them stronger and more resilient in the face of emotional challenges. The habit of speaking slowly can be cultivated through deliberate practice. Start by becoming aware of your typical speaking pace, especially when you're stressed or upset. Notice how quickly your words come out and how that affects your clarity and tone. Then, consciously slow down your speech in daily conversations, even when you're not emotionally triggered. This trains your brain to default to a calmer pace, making it easier to maintain control when emotions intensify. Breathing deeply as you speak can also help regulate the speed and keep your voice steady. Over time, this slower rhythm becomes second nature, a powerful tool you can rely on in any stressful situation. Many who adopt this practice report feeling more confident and less anxious in their interactions because they have greater control over how they express themselves. In addition to verbal communication, speaking slowly influences your overall emotional state. Fast speech is often a symptom of underlying agitation or anxiety, so slowing your words can help calm these inner feelings. It acts as a form of self-soothing that breaks the cycle of emotional escalation. This effect is similar to how deep breathing calms the nervous system. Slowing your voice sends a message to your brain that it's safe to relax. When your body and mind are calmer, your emotions naturally become more manageable. You gain clarity, patience, and the ability to hold space for yourself and others. This internal shift is crucial for navigating life's inevitable stresses with grace, preventing small triggers from snowballing into overwhelming episodes. While the idea of speaking slowly might seem simple or even trivial, it holds immense power in real-world emotional management. It is a skill that requires intentionality, practice, and self-awareness, but pays dividends in all areas of life, from professional settings to personal relationships. In high-stakes conversations, this approach can be the difference between escalating conflict and finding common ground. It fosters respect, enhances understanding, and promotes peaceful resolution. Most importantly, it nurtures emotional discipline by giving you a practical tool to pause and choose your words wisely, turning potentially explosive moments into opportunities for growth and connection. Embracing this practice can transform how you experience and express your emotions, leading to deeper peace and stronger bonds with those around you. Ultimately, speaking slowly when emotions try to rush you is a profound act of self-control and mindfulness. It reminds you that you are the author of your responses, not a slave to your feelings. When you take the time to slow your speech, you reclaim power over your narrative and invite harmony into your conversations. This simple but often overlooked strategy empowers you to handle emotional intensity with wisdom and grace, making every interaction an opportunity to build calm, connection, and understanding. It's a practice that everyone can develop and one that will serve you throughout your life, enabling you to navigate emotional storms with steady confidence and clarity. Number 15. Shift focus from the problem to your peace. Most people can relate to the all-consuming nature of problems when they arise. It's as if the moment a difficulty hits, your entire mind becomes trapped in a whirlwind of stress, worry, and frustration. This is the harsh reality many face daily, getting so entangled in the problem that it overshadows everything else, including your mental and emotional well-being. The truth is, fixating solely on the problem often intensifies anxiety and clouds judgment, making it harder to find solutions or even think clearly. What's rarely acknowledged is that you hold the power to shift your focus from the problem itself to your inner peace, and this shift can transform how you experience even the toughest situations. Instead of letting the problem dominate your mental space, consciously turning your attention to peace offers a way out of emotional chaos, grounding you in calmness and clarity that allow for more effective responses. This isn't about ignoring the problem or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about balancing your awareness so that the problem doesn't hijack your emotional state. When you prioritize peace, you create a mental sanctuary where stress cannot overwhelm you. Imagine your mind as a room. When the problem is the only thing inside, it feels cramped, suffocating, and noisy. But when you invite peace in, you open windows, let fresh air flow, and soften the harshness. This doesn't diminish the significance of the issue, but changes your perspective, allowing you to approach it with renewed energy and less emotional burden. Focusing on peace means acknowledging that your mental well-being is not a casualty to the problem. It is your most valuable asset in navigating and ultimately overcoming the challenge. Shifting your focus to peace requires deliberate effort, because the natural tendency is to dive deeper into the problem's details, replay worst-case scenarios, and magnify negative outcomes. This mental trap keeps many stuck in cycles of rumination and helplessness. To counter this, practice redirecting your thoughts whenever you notice yourself spiraling. Ask yourself, what can I do right now to feel more centered and calm? It might be a brief pause to breathe deeply, listening to calming music, or visualizing a serene place where you feel safe. These intentional actions work as mental anchors, pulling you away from the storm of the problem and into a space of peace. Over time, this habit builds resilience, making it easier to maintain emotional balance, regardless of external difficulties. The benefits of shifting focus extend beyond emotional regulation. When you are anchored in peace, your brain operates more efficiently. Stress hormones like cortisol decrease, while your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning, problem-solving, and impulse control, becomes more active. This biological shift enhances your ability to think creatively and strategically, which is crucial when facing complex problems. Instead of reacting impulsively or feeling overwhelmed, you can respond with calm deliberation. Peace acts like a clear lens, sharpening your view of the situation so you can identify practical steps forward. This calm state also improves communication, helping you express your needs and concerns clearly rather than through frustration or panic. Shifting focus to peace also positively affects your relationships during challenging times. Problems often involve other people, and stress can cause interactions to become tense, defensive, or hostile. When you ground yourself in peace, you bring a stabilizing presence to these interactions. Others sense your calmness, which can de-escalate conflicts and encourage mutual understanding. Peace creates space for empathy, patience, and compassion to grow, even when dealing with difficult personalities or stressful circumstances. By maintaining your inner peace, you model emotional maturity and invite others to engage with you more thoughtfully. This creates a ripple effect that can transform not only your own experience, but the collective atmosphere around the problem. Importantly, shifting your focus to peace helps protect you from emotional exhaustion and burnout. Constantly wrestling with problems without respite drains mental and physical energy. You might find yourself feeling depleted, anxious, or even hopeless after prolonged stress. Embracing peace is a form of self-care that replenishes your reserves and prevents overwhelm. It reminds you that your well-being matters just as much as solving the problem. This mindset reduces pressure and guilt, allowing you to face difficulties with steadier endurance. When you prioritize peace, you build a sustainable approach to challenges, one that honors your limits and encourages patience rather than rushing for quick fixes. Making this shift a daily practice can be supported by mindfulness techniques and intentional habits. Starting the day with a moment of calm reflection, gratitude, or meditation sets a peaceful tone that buffers against incoming stress. Throughout the day, check in with yourself regularly. Are you fixating on the problem, or are you nurturing your peace? Simple rituals like mindful breathing, gentle movement, or journaling about what brings you calm can reinforce this mental shift. These practices train your brain to seek peace as a default state, making it easier to return to whenever problems arise. It's not about eliminating problems, which is impossible, but about choosing how you engage with them so that peace remains your foundation. This approach also requires patience and forgiveness, especially when the mind stubbornly clings to worry and fear. It's natural to feel resistance or skepticism at first, especially when problems feel urgent or overwhelming. The key is consistent effort and kindness toward yourself when the focus drifts back to anxiety or frustration. Each time you gently redirect your attention to peace, you strengthen your emotional muscles and expand your capacity for calm endurance. Over time, this builds an inner sanctuary that no external problem can easily invade. You learn that peace is not a luxury, but a necessity, an essential resource that fuels clarity, resilience, and wisdom in the face of life's challenges. Ultimately, shifting your focus from the problem to your peace is a transformative practice that empowers you to navigate adversity with grace and strength. It frees you from the exhausting trap of endless worry and creates room for thoughtful action, healing, and growth. By making peace your priority, you reclaim control over your emotional landscape, reduce unnecessary suffering, and open the door to deeper insight and resolution. This shift is a powerful reminder that while problems are inevitable, being at peace amidst them is a choice, one that can profoundly change your experience of life's ups and downs, helping you emerge stronger, wiser, and more centered every time. Number 16. Count backward from 10 before reacting under pressure. It's a scene almost everyone knows all too well. A sudden comment or event hits a raw nerve, and before you realize it, a strong emotional reaction bursts out. The pressure of the moment can feel overwhelming, making it seem impossible to respond calmly or wisely. This experience is common and painfully real. People often regret words spoken too quickly or actions taken in the heat of an emotional storm. What most don't realize, though, is that there is a simple, effective technique that anyone can use immediately to regain control and avoid rash reactions: counting backward from 10. This seemingly basic strategy is a powerful tool to create a critical pause between the impulse and the response, allowing space for rational thinking to take over before emotions dictate behavior. When someone triggers us, our brain's automatic stress response floods us with adrenaline and cortisol, preparing us to fight, flee, or freeze. This biological reaction bypasses the thoughtful part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, and activates the amygdala, which governs fear and anger. That's why impulsive reactions feel so urgent and uncontrollable. Counting backward from 10 interrupts this automatic process by shifting focus to a deliberate mental activity. As you silently say 10, 9, 8, your brain diverts from the emotional surge, engaging a simple cognitive task that buys you crucial seconds. These seconds aren't just a delay, they are an opportunity to calm the storm inside and re-engage your ability to think clearly and respond thoughtfully. The power of this technique lies in its accessibility and immediacy. No special tools or environments are needed, just your mind and your breath. Counting backward demands concentration, which naturally reduces emotional intensity. It's like hitting a mental reset button that slows down the frantic rush of feelings. With each number you count down, your heart rate can begin to slow, breathing becomes steadier, and the sharp edge of your reaction dulls slightly. This physiological calming creates a better foundation for responding with control instead of regret. For many, this short pause is the difference between escalating conflict and resolving tension peacefully. Furthermore, the act of counting backward fosters mindfulness without requiring formal practice or preparation. It pulls your attention away from the triggering event and centers it in the present moment. This shift prevents your mind from spinning out with worst-case scenarios, blaming, or self-criticism, which only fuel emotional reactivity. Instead, counting backward helps anchor you in a neutral space where you can weigh your options and choose your next move consciously. It reinforces that you are not a slave to your immediate emotions, but have the ability to steer your reactions in a direction that serves you best, maintaining your dignity and relationships. The benefits of adopting this technique extend beyond single moments of stress. Over time, consistently using the countdown method builds emotional resilience and self-discipline. It trains your brain to recognize the warning signs of escalating emotions and triggers a natural habit of pausing before reacting. This habit rewires neural pathways toward greater emotional intelligence and patience. The practice also helps break destructive patterns where anger or anxiety lead to harmful words or actions. Instead, you cultivate a calm presence that others notice and respect, which can defuse tense situations before they spiral out of control. This internal mastery contributes to healthier interactions and more peaceful daily living. Using the counting technique can also improve communication outcomes dramatically. When emotions are high, people often speak hastily, say things they don't mean, or misinterpret others' intentions. By slowing down with a countdown, you create space to choose your words carefully and listen more attentively. This deliberate pacing encourages a more constructive dialogue, allowing for empathy and understanding to emerge. It reduces the risk of misunderstandings and regrets that often follow heated exchanges. Even in situations where you ultimately need to set boundaries or express dissatisfaction, the clarity gained from a calm pause increases the likelihood your message will be received respectfully and thoughtfully. It is important to remember that this strategy requires practice and patience. The first few times you try to count backward when triggered, it might feel awkward or ineffective because strong emotions can be overwhelming. Your mind might resist the pause, urging you to react immediately. This resistance is normal and expected. What matters is persistence. Each attempt strengthens your ability to harness this tool more naturally and effectively. Pairing the countdown with deep, controlled breathing can amplify its calming effects, helping you slow your heart rate and ease tension in your body simultaneously. Over time, this combination becomes a reliable habit that serves you in moments of pressure and beyond. Moreover, the counting method is versatile and can be tailored to fit your needs. Some find that counting from 20 or even 30 backward gives them more time to calm down, especially in highly charged situations. Others incorporate affirmations like, "I am calm," or "I choose peace," during the countdown to reinforce positive mental states. The key is to find a rhythm that works for you and commit to using it consistently. This personalized approach ensures the technique remains effective and accessible whenever emotions threaten to take over. Knowing you have this simple but powerful tool at your disposal empowers you to face life's inevitable challenges with more confidence and grace. In essence, counting backward from 10 before reacting under pressure is a fundamental skill in emotional regulation that everyone can learn. It's an antidote to impulsivity that restores balance in moments when emotions surge uncontrollably. By embedding this practice into your daily life, you build a foundation of calm and clarity that shapes not only how you handle conflict, but also how you experience your own emotional landscape. This small but profound shift fosters greater self-control, reduces regret, and improves your relationships and overall well-being. When life's pressures mount, this mental pause offers a powerful reminder that your reaction is your choice, and that choice can be one rooted in wisdom rather than impulse. Number 17. Visualize peace when someone tests your patience. In the real world, patience is one of the hardest virtues to maintain, especially when you're confronted by people or situations that push every button you have. It's all too common to feel your calm unravel in seconds, replaced by frustration or anger that can quickly spiral out of control. The reality is that when patience is tested, your mind races with tension and your emotions threaten to overwhelm your better judgment. But what if there was a way to shield yourself from this rapid descent into stress by simply harnessing the power of your imagination? Visualizing peace is a transformative mental strategy that can create a protective space between you and the triggers trying to provoke you, helping you hold steady when patience feels most fragile. When someone tests your patience, your instinctive reaction is often to meet the challenge head-on, sometimes with confrontation, defensiveness, or internal turmoil. However, these reactive responses almost always escalate the situation or leave you emotionally drained. Visualizing peace in these moments is a proactive way to interrupt this cycle. This technique asks you to close your eyes briefly, take a deep breath, and imagine yourself enveloped in calmness. Picture a place that embodies serenity, a quiet beach, a gentle forest, or a still mountain lake where the noise of conflict cannot reach you. This mental image serves as a safe haven, calming your nervous system and reducing the intensity of the emotional charge before you engage further. The effectiveness of visualization comes from how deeply it engages your mind-body connection. When you imagine a peaceful scene, your brain begins to send signals to your body to relax, lowering your heart rate and releasing tension in your muscles. This physiological response quiets the fight-or-flight reaction and helps you regain control over your impulses. The more vivid and detailed your mental picture, the stronger this calming effect becomes. You might notice the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of gentle waves, or the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. By immersing yourself in this sensory experience, you create a powerful contrast to the emotional turmoil provoked by others, allowing you to respond with a clearer mind and steadier heart. Beyond just calming your physical state, visualizing peace also shifts your mindset from reactive to intentional. It reminds you that while you can't always control other people's behavior, you can control your own response. This shift is crucial because it empowers you to choose patience instead of frustration, understanding rather than resentment. The moment you see peace clearly in your mind, you cultivate a mental anchor that keeps you grounded amid chaos. This anchor can be drawn upon repeatedly, becoming a reliable tool to diffuse anger or irritation before it escalates. Over time, this practice strengthens your emotional resilience, making patience not just a fleeting reaction, but a lasting personal strength. Visualizing peace also has a ripple effect on your relationships and daily interactions. When you consistently use this method, you send subtle signals to those around you that you are composed and centered, even when circumstances are difficult. This presence of calm can influence others, encouraging more respectful and thoughtful communication. It breaks the cycle of conflict by refusing to fuel negativity with reactive energy. People naturally respond to peacefulness, which can de-escalate tension and foster mutual understanding. In this way, your internal visualization practice doesn't just benefit your own emotional state. It creates a positive environment where patience and harmony become more common and achievable. Of course, visualization takes practice, especially in moments of high stress when your mind races and emotions flare. Initially, it may be challenging to slow down long enough to create these mental images or to believe in their calming power. This is entirely normal. With repeated effort, however, the process becomes more natural and automatic. Some find it helpful to prepare by visualizing peace during calm moments, training their mind to access these images quickly when needed. Pairing visualization with controlled breathing or a brief moment of silence can further deepen the calming effect. The more you integrate this practice into your routine, the more instinctive it will become to reach for peace rather than frustration when tested. The beauty of visualizing peace lies in its simplicity and accessibility. You don't need any tools beyond your mind, and you can do it anywhere, at work, in traffic, or even during heated conversations. This technique requires no special equipment or extensive time commitment, just a willingness to pause and redirect your thoughts. Its power comes from the fact that your mind is always active, constantly shaping your experience of the world. By consciously choosing to create peaceful mental images, you take control of the narrative your brain tells itself. This narrative then guides your emotions and actions, helping you stay patient, even in the most trying situations. Ultimately, visualizing peace when your patience is tested is more than just a calming trick. It's a profound way to reclaim your emotional sovereignty. It teaches you that even in moments when others try to push your buttons, you have the power to protect your inner calm. This practice fosters a deep sense of self-awareness and self-control, allowing you to navigate life's challenges with grace and wisdom. As you develop this skill, you become less reactive and more composed, transforming how you experience conflict and stress. In a world where patience is often in short supply, this mental habit can be a cornerstone of emotional strength and lasting peace. Number 18. Let silence protect you in emotionally charged situations. In today's fast-paced world, where every moment seems to demand a reaction, silence can feel like an awkward, even dangerous space to occupy. Yet, countless people experience the crushing pressure to speak up or defend themselves the instant emotions begin to swell, often leading to regret and escalated conflict. The harsh reality is that in the heat of emotionally charged situations, words become weapons, misunderstandings multiply, and the desire to break the silence pushes us into impulsive responses that rarely serve us well. However, learning to embrace silence as a protective shield rather than a void can completely transform how you handle emotionally intense moments, turning potential chaos into calm and clarity. When emotions flare, the instinct to fill the space with noise, defense, explanation, accusation, or retort is overwhelming. This frantic verbal energy, while understandable, often inflames tensions and muddles your ability to think clearly. Silence, by contrast, offers a pause, a breathing room that prevents hasty reactions and gives you a precious moment to process what's happening internally and externally. Choosing silence does not mean ignoring problems or conceding defeat. It means consciously stepping back from the pressure to react and creating a buffer zone where thoughtful reflection can take place. This silent boundary protects your mental space and guards your emotional integrity, allowing you to avoid saying something in anger that you might deeply regret later. This protective silence functions as an invisible fortress where your mind can regroup amidst the storm. In emotionally charged situations, your brain's natural fight-or-flight response tends to hijack rational thought, flooding you with adrenaline and clouding judgment. Silence slows down this biological rush. It reduces the sensory overload caused by the exchange of heated words and intense emotions, giving your nervous system a chance to reset. In this space, you can observe the situation with greater objectivity, recognize what you truly want to communicate, and assess whether responding immediately is necessary or if waiting will bring greater clarity and control. It's a powerful tool for regaining emotional balance when it feels like everything is spiraling out of control. Letting silence protect you also has profound effects on the dynamics of conflict and conversation. When you resist the urge to respond impulsively, you set a tone of calm and restraint that can de-escalate tension. Others involved in the exchange often sense this composed energy and may mirror it, reducing hostility and fostering a more constructive dialogue. Silence acts as a non-verbal cue, signaling that you are not engaging in the heat of the moment, but are instead seeking understanding and peace. This can encourage others to pause and reconsider their own emotional responses. In this way, silence doesn't just shield you, it can also change the course of the interaction, paving the way for resolution rather than prolonged confrontation. Mastering the art of protective silence requires both awareness and practice. It's challenging because society frequently equates silence with weakness or avoidance. You might worry that staying quiet will be misunderstood or seen as submission, especially in environments where expressing yourself loudly and quickly is the norm. However, real strength lies in your ability to hold space for yourself amid emotional storms, to choose when and how to speak rather than succumbing to automatic reactions. Building this discipline involves recognizing the moments when silence serves you best and committing to it even when it feels uncomfortable. Over time, this creates a habit where silence becomes a conscious choice rather than a fearful default. Incorporating silence as a protective strategy also demands that you develop patience and tolerance for discomfort. When emotions are high, the silence can feel like a pressure cooker, amplifying anxiety or uncertainty. It's normal to feel the urge to break it with words that might escalate the situation. The key is to remind yourself that the discomfort of silence is temporary and often far less damaging than the consequences of impulsive speech. Practicing breathing exercises, grounding techniques, or even gentle self-talk during these silent pauses can help ease the unease. This internal support reinforces the power of silence, turning it into a moment of strength rather than vulnerability. The benefits of letting silence protect you extend far beyond the immediate moment of conflict. Over time, this practice deepens your emotional intelligence and self-awareness. You learn to listen more deeply, not just to others, but to yourself, gaining insight into your triggers, motivations, and needs. Silence cultivates a mindful presence where you engage with others from a place of calm observation rather than reactive chaos. This not only improves your communication skills, but also enriches your relationships as people begin to recognize and respect your capacity for thoughtful restraint. You become someone who responds rather than reacts, someone who can maintain dignity and composure even in the most charged situations. Moreover, silence invites space for healing and reconciliation. When words have been sharp or damaging, stepping back into silence provides a cooling-off period where emotions can settle and wounds can begin to mend. It prevents the cycle of hurtful exchanges that often escalate conflicts beyond repair. Choosing silence also allows time for perspective, both yours and others, to broaden. This widened perspective opens doors to empathy, understanding, and creative problem-solving. By resisting the rush to speak or defend yourself, you enable a deeper process of connection and resolution that is rarely possible in the heat of emotional turbulence. In essence, silence is a profound tool that most people underestimate, especially when under emotional pressure. Instead of viewing silence as emptiness or passivity, you can reframe it as a protective and empowering choice that honors your well-being and integrity. It guards you from impulsive reactions that lead to regret and fosters a mental environment where peace and clarity can flourish. In the noisy chaos of emotionally charged situations, silence becomes your sanctuary, a place where you can regroup, reflect, and respond with wisdom. Developing this skill equips you to navigate life's inevitable emotional challenges with grace and strength, turning moments of tension into opportunities for growth and harmony. Number 19. Train your mind to value peace over drama. In the relentless chaos of daily life, most people find themselves trapped in cycles of conflict, unnecessary stress, and emotional turbulence that drain energy and cloud judgment. The truth many don't realize is that much of this chaos is fueled not by external circumstances, but by how we internally respond, how we choose between nurturing peace or feeding drama. It's a hard reality check that emotional drama often thrives because the mind has been conditioned to react, escalate, and indulge in conflict as if it's unavoidable or even necessary. Yet, training your mind to value peace over drama is not only possible but transformative, offering a powerful shift from constant turmoil to sustained calm and clarity. Learning to prioritize peace starts with a conscious decision to refuse the magnetic pull of drama. Drama is addictive in a strange way because it stirs intense emotions, anger, excitement, anxiety that can feel energizing or validating in the moment. However, these emotional highs come at a heavy cost, exhausting your mental resources and fracturing your relationships. Peace, on the other hand, is quieter and less flashy. It doesn't seek attention or provoke reactions. Instead, it nurtures balance, acceptance, and resilience. Training your mind to lean toward peace means consciously rejecting the allure of overreacting, gossip, blame, and conflict, no matter how tempting or justified they seem. This mental retraining rewires your automatic responses, gradually replacing drama-driven impulses with calm, constructive choices. The process of valuing peace over drama requires intentional mindfulness and emotional discipline. It begins with recognizing when you are being pulled into drama, whether through heated conversations, social media battles, or personal conflicts, and deliberately choosing not to engage in ways that escalate tension. This means stepping back, reframing the situation, and asking yourself what outcome you truly want. Does reacting impulsively bring you closer to resolution, or just more chaos? Does feeding into the drama serve your long-term well-being or short-lived gratification? By cultivating this critical self-awareness, you build a mental filter that distinguishes between what deserves your energy and what is better left alone. Over time, this practice strengthens your ability to remain centered and unshaken by provocations that once would have derailed your peace. Valuing peace also means cultivating inner calm through daily habits that support emotional regulation and mental clarity. When the mind is overloaded with stress, fear, or resentment, it is more prone to creating drama as a misguided attempt to express or release those feelings. Practices such as meditation, journaling, deep breathing, and grounding exercises become essential tools for calming the nervous system and restoring balance. They create a stable foundation from which you can face life's challenges without losing composure. When peace is prioritized internally, your external reactions naturally shift toward patience, understanding, and compassion instead of defensiveness, blame, or aggression. This internal shift rewires your brain's default mode, fostering resilience that is not easily shaken by external drama. Another critical aspect of training your mind to value peace over drama lies in the relationships and environments you choose to engage with. Toxic interactions and negative influences act like accelerants for drama, feeding into reactive patterns that undermine your mental peace. Learning to set healthy boundaries, distance yourself from unnecessary conflict, and surround yourself with calm, supportive people reinforces your commitment to peace. It's a courageous but essential step to decline participation in gossip, divisive conversations, or any situation that repeatedly drags you into emotional chaos. Instead, intentionally investing in relationships that encourage respectful dialogue, empathy, and mutual support builds a social network aligned with your values of peace and emotional maturity. This mindset shift also changes how you interpret and respond to external events that would typically trigger dramatic reactions. When you train your mind to value peace, you develop a habit of viewing challenges as opportunities for growth rather than threats to your stability. Situations that once sparked frustration or anger can be seen through a lens of curiosity and patience. This reframing softens emotional reactions and reduces the likelihood of escalation. You become less attached to being right or winning arguments, recognizing that maintaining peace often requires humility and the willingness to let go of ego-driven battles. In this way, your mind moves from a reactive, combative stance to one of mindful acceptance and calm problem-solving, profoundly altering your experience of conflict and stress. Over time, consistently choosing peace over drama rewires your brain's neural pathways, making calm and thoughtful responses your new default. This rewiring strengthens emotional intelligence and enhances decision-making, allowing you to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics with greater ease. The mental muscles built through this training enable you to tolerate discomfort without flaring into chaos and to respond to provocations with measured wisdom. You become a stabilizing presence not only for yourself, but also for those around you. This ripple effect can diffuse tension in your community, workplace, and family, demonstrating the far-reaching impact of valuing peace as a core mindset. Training your mind to prioritize peace does not imply passivity or avoidance of important issues. Instead, it empowers you to address challenges from a place of centered strength and clarity. It fosters an environment where problems can be solved collaboratively, emotions are expressed healthily, and conflicts resolved constructively. This approach requires patience and perseverance, especially in a culture that often glorifies drama as entertainment or a sign of passion. However, the personal freedom and mental serenity that come from breaking free of drama's grip are well worth the effort. You reclaim control over your emotional landscape, making peace not just a fleeting state but a lasting way of life. Ultimately, valuing peace over drama is a radical act of self-care and wisdom. It demands that you become vigilant about the stories you tell yourself, the emotions you entertain, and the interactions you choose to engage in. It calls you to rise above the noise and confusion of reactive patterns and embrace a steady, grounded approach to life's inevitable conflicts. This shift transforms not only your internal world, but also the quality of your relationships and your overall well-being. When you train your mind to value peace, you step into a powerful truth. Peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but the presence of deep, unshakable harmony that sustains you through life's storms. Number 20. Respond with wisdom, not emotion in every conflict. Conflict is an unavoidable part of life, yet it's one of the most common sources of emotional overwhelm that can shatter our peace and strain our relationships. The reality is that when tension rises, our default mode often shifts to reacting emotionally, sometimes angrily, defensively, or impulsively, which only deepens the conflict and prolongs suffering. Most people have experienced the destructive aftermath of saying things they regret or acting rashly when emotions ran high. The hard truth is that without intentional effort, emotional reactions can hijack our reasoning, cloud judgment, and create cycles of misunderstanding that seem impossible to break. Responding with wisdom rather than emotion is a skill that can transform conflicts into opportunities for growth, connection, and resolution, yet it requires deep self-awareness, patience, and practice. Wisdom in conflict begins with the ability to pause and step back from the immediate rush of feelings. It demands a break in the instinctual fight-or-flight response that triggers emotional storms inside us. When anger, fear, or frustration bubble up, the mind is primed to defend itself aggressively or retreat in silence. But responding with wisdom calls for a calm, deliberate approach, one that allows you to observe your emotions without letting them dictate your words or actions. This internal space is the gateway to clarity, helping you to evaluate the real issue beneath the surface of the conflict and the intentions of both yourself and the other party. By holding this perspective, you prevent the conversation from becoming a battleground and instead guide it towards understanding. In order to respond wisely, it's crucial to develop emotional regulation skills that temper intense feelings without suppressing them. This means recognizing your emotional triggers and learning how to soothe yourself through techniques such as mindful breathing, grounding exercises, or brief moments of solitude. When you have the tools to manage your emotional energy effectively, you reduce the risk of saying something in the heat of the moment that can cause lasting damage. Wisdom in response also involves choosing language that fosters dialogue rather than division, using I statements to express your feelings, listening actively without interrupting, and acknowledging the other person's perspective, even when you disagree. This approach disarms defensiveness and opens the door for mutual respect and empathy. Another vital aspect of responding with wisdom is focusing on the solution rather than the blame. Emotional reactions often fixate on assigning fault or defending ego, which keeps conflict stuck in negative loops. Wise responses shift the attention to problem-solving, asking questions that uncover needs and possible compromises. This mindset turns conflict into a collaborative effort instead of a competition. It requires humility to admit when you might be wrong or when your actions contributed to the tension. But this humility builds trust and shows maturity, signaling that you value the relationship more than winning an argument. By prioritizing resolution over reaction, you cultivate an environment where conflicts become opportunities for strengthening bonds rather than destroying them. Responding wisely also entails patience, allowing time for emotions to cool before addressing the issue if necessary. Some conflicts cannot be resolved productively in the heat of the moment. Recognizing when to step away temporarily and revisit the conversation later shows emotional intelligence and respect for both parties' mental space. This time apart is not avoidance, but a strategic pause to gather thoughts and emotions so that when the discussion resumes, it can be more constructive and less reactive. Wisdom is knowing when silence and distance are more powerful than words and immediacy in calming volatile situations. Importantly, responding with wisdom means aligning your intentions with long-term peace rather than short-term gratification. Emotional responses might feel satisfying in the moment, venting frustration, defending pride, or retaliating against perceived wrongs. But these impulses rarely lead to lasting harmony. Wisdom asks you to look beyond the immediate discomfort and consider the broader impact of your actions on your relationships, your reputation, and your own well-being. It challenges you to respond from a place of compassion, seeing the humanity in others even when you disagree, and seeking outcomes that honor both your truth and theirs. This deep consideration fosters a culture of respect and cooperation that endures beyond individual conflicts. Developing the habit of responding with wisdom in every conflict is a lifelong journey that involves continuous reflection and growth. It requires humility to recognize your own flaws and biases, courage to confront difficult emotions honestly, and discipline to choose restraint when impulses demand otherwise. Each conflict becomes a practice ground to hone this skill, sometimes succeeding, sometimes learning from mistakes. The commitment to respond wisely transforms not only how you handle disputes, but reshapes your entire approach to challenges, stress, and human interaction. Over time, this transformation nurtures a sense of inner peace and strength that is unshaken by external turmoil. When you respond with wisdom rather than emotion, you become a beacon of calm in the storm of human relations. You model emotional maturity, inspire trust, and foster safer spaces for honest communication. This response style diffuses tension and invites collaboration instead of conflict, ultimately creating healthier and more resilient relationships. In a world often dominated by reactive behavior and polarized opinions, choosing wisdom is an act of radical presence and intentional living. It elevates the quality of your interactions and brings you closer to the kind of peace that sustains you through life's inevitable trials and disagreements. Wisdom in response is not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it, a way to honor your feelings without allowing them to control you, guiding you to act from clarity, kindness, and thoughtful purpose.